All right, we all saw the tweet from Adam Schefter after Broncos passing game coordinator and quarterback coach Davis Webb interviewed this week for the Raiders and Bills head coaching jobs. He received interview requests for offensive coordinator jobs with the Eagles, the Giants, and the Ravens. So let's talk D-Webb and other potential Giants offensive coordinator candidates with Nick Falato, writer for Big Blue View. Nick, what's going on?
Thank you so much, Brendan, for having me back on the show. Let's talk some New York Giants offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, taking the Cleveland job. Bold of you, but, we thought you were coming home to New York. I guess not.
Yeah, and it's funny because when the news broke that he took the Browns head coaching job, you put out the tweet, "Hey, Davis Webb, you still around?" That's like one of those 2 a.m., hey, you still up type text right there. So we know all about his ties to the Giants, and he's got a lot of respect around the league. But he's only coached for 2 years, and he's never called plays. So why Davis Webb? Why should John Harbaugh trust him with the Giants offense and Jackson Dart's development?
Look, fortune favors the brave, and I think this would be a bold move for John Harbaugh to go out there and get somebody who is just a offensive pass games coordinator and a quarterbacks coach under Sean Payton. But the thing is, Joe Lombardi was just fired. He was the offensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos. What is the role of the offensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos if you're not calling plays? Davis Webb, you'll be able to call plays under John Harbaugh. Now, from Harbaugh's perspective, to answer your question, it's a risk. This is a 31-year-old, but it is a 31-year-old who, I remember hearing when this guy was 27, 28, that he was a player's coach when he was with Brian Dable and Joe Shane up in Buffalo. And then he came back to the New York Giants in 2022. And all you heard about around the locker room, I know you're around the team, Brandon, was Davis Webb is essentially a player's coach behind Daniel Jones, assisting Daniel Jones with the transition into Brian Dable's offense since he was familiar with it. And since then, he's gone on to Denver, quarterbacks coach 2023, 2024, and Denver Broncos offensive pass game coordinator. You're going to have this opportunity to call plays here for Davis. I think it is risky.
First-time offensive coordinator. You think Davis Webb can handle that pressure, though?
Look, I can't sit here and say with any certainty that he can. And again, that will all be discerned through the interview process. But I'm willing to take that risk if John Harbaugh sits down with him, if Joe Shane sits down with Davis Webb, and Davis Webb has a well-thought-out, articulate plan on how he wants to run this offense. And if that coincides with the vision of John Harbaugh, I would say yes. I think you need to strongly consider that. We've seen so many teams in the past, and this is a lot for head coaching, but they rolled the dice on coordinators who were young. Obviously, the best example is Sean McVay with the Los Angeles Rams. That was for the head coaching position. This is for the offensive coordinator position. It's a little bit lesser, obviously, but it's a situation that I'm willing to look into these young guys. The sport is evolving right now, and if you have guys coming out of the McVay tree, because I also want to bring up Nate Shellhouse, a 35-year-old pass games coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams as well. Those types of coaches, if you get them in a room and you can really just see how they view the sport of football, and if it meshes with your ideology as a coach, John Harbaugh, you have to explore that. I mean, there are veteran coaches you can explore as well, but I do look at someone like Davis Webb, and that really does interest me just over the things that I've heard, because there's no proof of concept of it because he's never called plays at the NFL level. But the things that I've heard over the years about this guy's brilliance, you could hire him. And if he is as brilliant as a lot of people say, then you just found a gem, and the Giants can hit the ground running with this young, offensive, talented personnel that they have.
And yeah, without a doubt, the league is getting younger, not just from the player standpoint, but you're seeing it, like you said, from the coaching standpoint as well. You've got my boy, my former UMass quarterback, Liam Cohen, taking over the Jacksonville Jaguars and turning them around. My man's not even 40 yet. I don't even think I saw some gray in his hair just yet, and he was able to go down there and have some success. So there's always that debate of, do you get someone with the experience that's been around for a long time, or do you get that young, hot, upcoming, coordinator or pass game coordinator that you want to come in with some fresh ideas. So outside of Davis Webb, let's say he doesn't get it. If not Webb, then who are some of the candidates or names that you're hearing that you think have a real shot at the job and would be a right fit?
We'll stay young here for a second, and I brought up his name a little bit before. Nathan Shellhouse, he's the pass game coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams. Prior to that, he was passing game specialist and the offensive assistant in 2024, and he was with Matt Campbell at Iowa State, and Matt Campbell really changed that entire that entire program around at Iowa State made them a contender. And he was there dating all the way back to the 2018 season. He's only 35 years old, so he's a really young man. And he comes from the Sean McVay tree. So that's an enticing person to bring into the room to see if he can handle that and handle that responsibility. Again, I have no inside knowledge on that, but the fact that he is linked to Sean McVay, he's going to get a lot of calls, and that's why you see his name float out there quite a bit. And then you have Charlie Weiss Jr. He's another player, another person that we should really look at because he has a strong relationship with Jackson Dart. He was his offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, of course, under Lane Kiffin. And he did just accept a job with LSU at Lane Kiffin, but maybe he would want to jump to the NFL and relink up with Jackson Dart. So I think that has to be another option.
Well, I think, as I continue to watch these offenses, and again, the Shell House is one of those guys, you're coming from that McVay tree where Sean McVay calls the plays. Like, he is the guy. It's the same thing as Jackson with Davis Webb, with Sean Payton. So you're learning, you're getting the tutelage to tutor under, a great offensive mind like the way that they're doing, and that's why they're getting these interviews. But with all the pressure that John Harbaugh has on him to come in and turn this thing around right away, I'm going to go with the 40-plus club and represent some of the older guys. So I'm crazy saying this. Who are some of the older candidates out there that you like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% certain. I don't want to say I like them per se. I would really want to do a deeper dive into what they have done in recent years. But Greg Roman is somebody who 53 years old. He's a New Jersey native who has an extensive background with John Harbaugh, was with John Harbaugh from 2017 to 2022, but was the offensive coordinator from 2019 to 2022. And 2019 was that breakout year for Lamar Jackson where the offense for the Baltimore Ravens was one of the most potent and explosive in the National Football League, but it started to wane a little bit into the 2022 season, and Greg Roman was eventually let go. And then there's Cliff Kingsbury. He was in the division the last 2 years, Brandon, right? It was excellent in 2024. They went to the NFC Championship game. They were third best in rushing, fifth best in scoring, fifth best in red zone efficiency, and Jaden Daniels took the league by storm, but Jaden Daniels was injured for the majority of this year with multiple injuries, and Marcus Mariota stepped in, and it wasn't the worst offense in the league, but they took a big step back. And to my understanding, Cliff Kingsbury wasn't fired by Dan Quinn, but I think they both opted to explore other options. I think that's how it was phrased. He could be an option for the New York Giants if John Harbaugh has any type of relationship. And then there's the other one, and this one is one where the Giants might explore, and it's probably one reason why they retained him on the staff, and that's Tim Kelly, the Giants tight ends coach from last year, who took over offensive coordinator from Mike Kafka when Mike Kafka relieved Brian Dable. And I think if all else fails, Tim Kelly has called plays in 2 different spots. I didn't think he did a bad job last year with Jackson Dart, has a relationship with Jackson Dart. Obviously, John Harbaugh wanted to keep him around, keep Charlie Bolin around, who was the defensive coordinator. So there's a mutual respect there. There's a willingness to work with him. So I would not be shocked if some of these other options, if John Harbaugh does not want them, and he trusts Tim Kelly, which we've already seen, there's already a little bit of evidence for that Tim Kelly might get the job.
Yeah, the way all these candidates, man, it's going to be interesting, but none of them are going to eat or thrive unless they got weapons on the perimeter. And I'm anxious to see what the Giants do with that 5th overall pick and in free agency when it comes to building around Jackson Dart. But first, it's got to start with bringing in an OC. So I'm anxious to see who he brings in. Nick, appreciate you hopping on with me, my man.
Absolutely, Brandon. Thank you for having me.